As the cold void of space engulfed us, I felt my pulse quicken, each beat echoing louder than the thunk of a distant reactor cooling down. The stench of burnt metal was thick in the air as I crouched behind the shattered remnants of a cargo hold on the derelict Wish, a haphazard name for a ship that held nothing but calamity. Around me, the sounds of the ransacked vessel creaked ominously, like a desperate dying breath, and I resisted the urge to peek out from my hiding spot. "Idris, you still breathing?" Zara's voice crackled over the comm, threading worry through my shoulders. I could only nod, though she couldn't see me. "Barely," I muttered, forcing down the tremor that threatened to break into a full panic. "What were you thinking, slicing the transponder like that? We had them cornered." "It don't start with me," she fired back. "You were the one that thought making a scene in the Nexus 5 district would distract their guards. Instead, we have half the syndicate breathing down our necks, and they will not care why we butchered an entire load of cark to take the ship. You'd think I'd learn, but that was the thing. The adrenaline rush of stealing from the syndicates, if I could dodge a few laser beams and make a clean getaway, had become a siren call I couldn't resist. Even with my master's heart wrapped tightly around my throat, the thrill suited my blood, even if the stakes had never been higher. I closed my eyes briefly. I was haunted by the last time I had failed him, how the threat of judgment lay tucked away under the surface, something I could drown out with bravado. But I knew that today the price would be far steeper. "Can you see them?" I asked, biting back my rising fear as I pressed myself closer to the wall. The air was cold and stale, most of the heat drained out along with the ship's life force. I scanned the heavy shadows where fading light couldn't reach, every fiber in my being screaming to flee. "Two, maybe three of them. We have to get to the hangar. If I can pilot the shuttle." Their heavy boots thudded loudly down the corridor outside, followed by a voice that sent icy fear pricking at my skin, heavy and foreboding. "Search here. They can't have gone far." "All guards, report in," another voice barked, the synth. Generated gravelness scratching against my ears. The syndicate enforcers were relentless. They never stopped until their quarry lay cold or worse. "Idris," Zara hissed through the comm, "get ready. We're not making it out without a fight." "A fight?" I spat, heart racing. She was too caught up in our reckless plan, too driven by the promise of freedom that came with eluding capture. "You think they care about your negotiations? They'd follow our scent to the rim and back just to drag our bodies in as trophies. Hurry, you coward." "This is our chance," she insisted, voice sharp as a whip crack, urging me out of my crouch. I inhaled, forcing a breath deep into my lungs as the shadows deepened and whispered, indicative of my torment. If we failed, I would not only lose my chance at redemption, I would live out my darkest scenarios where their unquenchable thirst for vengeance relentlessly hunted us down. And worse, I would never hear his voice again. I eyed the dim entryway, weighing the split second choice in my mind, an instinctive battle between fight or flight. But it was never that simple. I couldn't let her face them alone. She was everything I swore to protect. So, determination raged beneath my skin, the tremors of fear joining the chorus of bravado in a strange harmony. I exhaled deeply. On 3, then, I breathed. There was a certain comfort knowing we were in this together. That sweet elation of their ruthlessness would not claim us today. 3, Zara whispered. I thrust myself against the cargo hold wall, summoning the remnants of my confidence. 2. My body clenched as every nerve lit aflame with anticipation, staring into the piercing dark, sensing movement outside with an acrid smell of rust and desperation wrapping around me like coils of a noose. 1. I leaped into action, adrenaline thrumming through my veins as I flooded out into the open, revealing my abrupt intentions. The echoes of my heartbeat were accompanied by the harsh clang of boots desperately scrambling towards me. I barely registered Zara's fluid movement beside me, matching my pace, the air between us thick with electric anticipation. But as the chaos unfolded, time seemed to stretch and warp. Exposed to the vastness of the ship's interior, the walls hummed and flickered ominously as I darted through a hall, propelled by instincts refined through years of living on edge. Our lives dangled at the precipice. A thrilling part of me embraced it. The sights and sounds fell heavily into place with every heartbeat. A door swung open ahead, revealing the hangar bay, my created exit to the stars and perhaps salvation. "Is Zara? We need to," but before I could finish, a figure emerged from the shadows, a gleaming barrel raised towards us, and the presence of fear clawed its way back in, coiling around my heart. "And nowhere to run, you two," he barked, voice echoing the whole as it sliced through the camaraderie we cracked on life's edge. My gut lurched. My instincts screamed at me that we were far past safe. While the threat loomed ahead, I could still feel Zara moving, bolting instinctively away from danger as the world around splintered into chaos. "All units, we've located the targets," the enforcer's voice boomed amidst the arcane lights, sealing our fates within that moment. What was once our sanctuary had turned into a trap. And as I crouched in defiance, the threads of fear began to unravel, weaving something more tangible. I didn't know it yet, but we were about to meet the true essence of our existence, a reckoning I would never have expected, the chance to claim the entirety of what fear could be transformed into. To emerge from the darkness was one thing, but to conquer the very fabric that kept us shackled was another. And it was only the beginning of the species that would change everything. I ducked behind a pair of flickering cargo containers as the enforcer's blaster fired off a series of blistering shots, each one illuminating the hangar bay with bursts of crimson light. The air thrummed with the sound of energy discharges, warming the frigid atmosphere around us. Zara's footsteps echoed against the metal grating as she darted left, her movements fluid and agile, drawing the fire away from me. In that moment, she was elemental, a force pressed against the inevitability of our demise. "Keep moving," she shouted, her voice punctuated by the clang of her boots against the floor. I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to catch up. Weeks of preparation had led us to this moment. Not just the thrill of running against our enemies, but the hope of seizing a future we barely dared to imagine. I spied a loading door to the right. The large panel ripped slightly ajar thanks to a previous skirmish. The hinges shrieked as I pushed it open, eyes flicking back to where the enforcer was already diverting his attention toward Zara, who was now throwing containers in his direction, hoping to create the briefest distraction. "Idris," she called, her voice laced with urgency. And now, I rushed through the broken door and beyond the confines of the ship. The stark brightness of a landing pad lit up before me, illuminating the battered hangar filled with various vessels. But before I could get my bearings, I'd run headfirst into something unexpected, the arrival of new foes. Emerging from the shadows were figures clad in dark flight suits with insignias that were new to me, bold and angular. My eyes widened as I recognized the insignia of the Obsidian Coalition, a faction known for its ruthless piracy and unconventional alliances. In an instant, the tension doubled as I found myself caught between the Syndicate and the Coalition, predators circling their prey. "Stand down, or you'll regret it," yelled the lead figure, raising a weapon of a design I wouldn't likely survive. A closer look revealed this wasn't just an average crew, but elite mercenaries, their faces concealed behind dark visors that hid their intentions as much as their identity. Zara burst back into the hangar, her breath heavy as she sprinted toward me, only to skid to a halt at the sight of the Coalition members. "What now, genius?" she hissed, clutching the blaster we had pilfered from the last crew we encountered, her body trembling with adrenaline. "Can't we ever catch a break?" I cursed under my breath. "Zara, we need to find a way out. Now." I nodded subtly toward a small freighter docked off to the side, the Marauder. Without waiting for an answer, I made a beeline for the ship, hoping to leverage our shared goal of eluding our enemies. We loped toward the freighter, a vessel known for its maneuverability, a critical quality when navigating the treacherous fringes of space. The Coalition mercenaries shouted behind us, but I refused to look back, pushing through the possibility of our imminent apprehension. With rendezvous distant yet palpable, I swung aboard the cramped cockpit and began initiating the start sequence, my fingers flying across the holographic display. Zara stumbled inside just as I secured the ship's doors. The machinery hummed to life, filling the emptiness of our plight with the promise of escape. "Incoming," Zara shouted, leveling her weapon. My heart raced as blasts echoed against the hull, vibrations radiating around us. Yet they were wrong to think their power frightened me. It only fueled the rage simmering within, prickling at the edges of my soul. "Just keep firing," I yelled at Zara, focusing on the visuals in front of me. "We need to lift off before the ship dropped suddenly, crashing into a dazzling array of lights. An explosion rang out as a detonation barreled through, sending us jolting forward in our seats, the alarms blaring defiantly. I fumbled with switches, my fingers shaking as I fought to stabilize our flight path. "Calm down on the throttle," Zara screamed over the noise. "Do you want to die, or can you pilot this scrap heap?" "I can drive," I shot back defensively, the torrent of emotions within rising overwhelmingly. But right now, our entire lives are falling to pieces. Suddenly, a familiar face flickered across the corner of my mind, a ripple in time. A reminder that my resolve had not been forged alone. Alistair, my mentor, the one who taught me how to maneuver in ships just like this one, had stayed in my memory like an unwavering beacon. He'd once taught me that fear was a cage, but we could break its bars if we dared. I took a breath, recognizing the foundation he had laid within me. That same daring spirit was stirring. "Steady hands, Idris," I murmured to myself, focusing on the intricate starry expanse beyond the cracked viewports as I engaged the thrusters. The ship surged to life, lifting off the ground with an ear-splitting roar. We escaped the confines of the hangar, the debris trailing behind us as we cut through the crisp air. "We can't jump to hyperspace yet," Zara warned, peering over her shoulder as the Coalition mercenaries followed closely behind, weaving through the hull of the derelict ship. My heart soared. We were leaving, but the danger wasn't behind us yet. What do we do? I glanced out into the cosmos, the pinpoints of starlight representing dreams, aspirations, everything I fought to preserve. "We turn," I replied, angling the ship sharply to one side, throwing us into evasive maneuvers. Melded by frustration and exhilaration, I wrestled with the ship's controls, twisting the cockpit to avoid enemy fire, yet still grounding my feet in the logic I had known. The coolness of measured action rested in stark contrast against Zara's raw energy. Together, we danced among the chaos. Asterisk where to next? Asterisk evasive tactics. Charts flickering before my eyes, everything spun into a cohesive map. Returning to the threshold cluster, where the fragmented dreams of my past awaited amidst the remnants of stardust and folly. "Activate cloaking mode," Zara ordered, her voice determined even as another blast grazed the hull, sending a cascade of sparks in every direction. "If we can just get to a threshold station," I completed, feeling a rush surge through me. The remnants of the Syndicate and the Coalition would be searching for us in the sprawling void, but there, in the heart of dereliction, lay a network of allies just as desperate as we were. I thought of Alistair's warnings. Conflicts on the fringes could unravel all that was hard won. Upon reaching the galaxy's crossroads, our fate intertwined with the struggles and machinations of consortia and shadow factions alike. If I could prove my worth to Alistair's legacy, if we could navigate the treachery within these alliances, the truth we sought would manifest. As we entered the threshold station's atmosphere, I glanced toward Zara, who held her breath next to me. Our fates had become intricately bound amidst the chaos. Every challenge had only deepened our bond, turning from mere partners into allies forged through survival. "Ready to take a gamble?" she asked with a smirk, optimism blooming in the face of adversity. "Always," I replied, offering a determined grin. But as the shimmering lights of the station loomed larger on our approach, a new enigma unfurled before us. The chance to unravel the secrets both of our pasts and the looming shadow of conflict that clouded our present. In those luminous depths awaited the answers, the thrill of what lay hidden among us, bound by sacrifice, redemption, and legacy. I could feel the pulse of uncertainty beneath my resolve, and as the ship touched down with a shudder, I knew we had only just begun. The mystery of what waited beyond that threshold began to seep into my bones, a tide of revelations and truths, beckoning us into the depths from which we had escaped. What challenge awaited us within? Together, we would navigate the unknown, reclaiming our futures one star at a time. I hesitated at the cockpit's entrance, the unfamiliar yet awe-inspiring hum of Threshold Station thrumming beneath my skin. The stark contrast between the chaos we had just escaped and the controlled environment of the station made the walls breathe around me, cloaked in shadows and potential. "We don't have much time," Zara urged, her voice cutting through my reverie. "We need to find shelter before they catch up." I nodded, shaking off the remnants of disbelief, and stepped forward with her. The air outside was thick with unease, remnants of scattered inhabitants bustling in the narrow alleys adorned with erratic neon signs dotting the station's rugged interior. Harper, a smuggler connected to Alistair, my mentor's network, had once whispered about this place being a refuge, and a refuge it smelled, felt, and looked every bit of. It even held the nuances of a place that could hide secrets profound enough to tilt the scales of power across the galaxy. The suffocating remnants of fear clung desperately to me. "Where should we start?" I asked, scanning the crowded marketplace around us, filled with sounds of bartering voices and sizzling spices. I felt vulnerable despite the promise of hidden allies, a strange contradiction to our previous resolve. "We need the Old Crow, a bar that isn't as quaint as it sounds," Zara replied, her eyes scanning for threats. "It could lead us to Harper, and if anyone knows how to keep us under the radar, it's him." I was grateful for Zara's unwavering focus, and even more for her ability to lead with an iron will. Yet an unnameable dread twisted at my gut as we trekked deeper into the maze of twisted metal. It felt like old ghosts shadowed our every step of the syndicate, of the coalition, and of something darker lingering in the recesses. "Zara," I ventured, avoiding her gaze. Her pace never faltered. "What if we can't find Harper? What if—" "Stop it," she shot back, her voice surprisingly low and piercing through the void around us. "We will find him. No one can touch us here without retribution from the factions that run this place. Remember, we learned the good parts of working with the scum of the galaxy." Those words temporarily thrilled me. The idea of safety was intoxicating, even unfamiliar. But it was precisely that allure which threw me into uncertainty. What did safety mean in a world projected by deception? I felt echoes of Alistair's lessons urging me to question everything I knew. But what if things have changed? I pressed on, needing her to see the crumbling foundations beneath our feet. We can't forget that sometimes the true danger lies in the walls we think protect us. The flicker of doubt crossed her features, but she quickly masked it with determination. "We don't have a choice," she said, her voice a fierce whisper. "If we're going to stand any chance of clearing our names," I held back a sigh. We were both aware of the stakes, yet a deeper fear of failure, of condemnation taunted me with unrelenting persistence. We finally arrived at the Old Crow, the entrance shimmering with the promise of drink and camaraderie, masked beneath smoke and laughter. When we stepped inside, the pungent aroma of spice and burnt metal clung to the air. Low conversations curled around us like tendrils, while the dim lighting cast an uninviting glow across the rows of patrons huddled over their drinks. I glanced about the room, feeling my pulse quicken as a dozen past allies and enemies collided in headlines of memories too fresh to process. The Old Crow was alive with whispers, secrets, and intrigue, an echo chamber of faded alliances melded through betrayal. "Oh, there's Harper," Zara said, her gaze steady as it locked onto a figure seated just beyond the bar. Tall and burly, shadowed in a dark coat with a gnarled finger gripping a dull glass. The resemblance to my mentor struck me viscerally, an unbidden nostalgia I fought to bury deep. Asterisk, there was no time for dessert sentiments. Asterisk, let us move, I urged, pulling Zara toward the table and ignoring the way chills skittered down my spine as memories clawed at my resolve. Harper looked up as we approached, his expression sliding between surprise and curiosity, his eyes narrow and assessing. "What brings you two to this side of the galaxy?" he asked, voice edged with amusement. "Last I heard, you two were busy biting off more than you could chew." "We need your help," Zara stated bluntly, projecting confidence even as I felt the knot grow in my chest. "The Syndicate has put a price on our heads, and we're crawling around enemy territory." Harper's laughter roared through the bar, ringing like an awakening bell. "Aren't you two the cute little rebels? Leave the politics to the professionals, kids. It's a bloody mess out there." My jaw clenched, and I exchanged a glance with Zara, who merely stared him down. "We're serious, Harper. You have to help us out here," Zara pressed, her tone slicing through the casual banter of the bar. The light in the older man's eyes flickered with contemplation, silencing the room momentarily. "What do you think I can do? Make your enemy vanish? We need to uncover the truth," I implored, desperation curling in my belly. "We're in over our heads. The Syndicate and the Coalition just put us on a collision course for assassination, or worse. And we can't fight back without knowing what we're up against." The silence felt heavy, compressing the space between us with invisible expectations. Harper raked a hand through his hair, looking between Zara and me before finally relenting. "Fine. I can dig around, but you need to trust that knowledge comes with a price. Everything has consequences. We understand," Zara stated, her unwavering gaze never deviating. My heart thundered in tandem with that promise, a pact forged in the awareness of sacrifice. As Harper leaned back in his chair, I wondered what price we would have to pay for the tangled web that lay ahead. "Go to the Terran district," he murmured, his tone dropping low. "Find the filing archive near the docks, the abandoned freighter. There's something hidden, something targeting both the Syndicate and the Coalition. But you'll have to tread carefully. Darkness thrives in those underbelly trades, and trust me, betrayal is a currency here." "We'll do whatever it takes," I murmured, exchanging a glance with Zara that felt laden with understanding. As confidence surged within me, I caught a glimpse of Harper's eyes, shadows dancing in their depths, a warning unspoken. "Be careful what truths you seek. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed." We took his advice to heart as we departed the Old Crow, leading us back into the thrumming corridors of Threshold Station. With each step, the air thickened with anticipation of unearthing answers to questions I was only beginning to grasp. A sudden eruption of tension unfurled before us as two Syndicate members entered the marketplace, scanning with predatory instincts, hands itching toward their holsters. I felt a shiver race through me as my instincts propelled me into motion. "This way," I urged, yanking Zara's arm as we ducked into a side street that twisted sharply into darkness. The shadows wrapped around us, a layer of secrecy in the labyrinthine corners of desperation, across fractures yet to spill over. We would need to navigate these turbulent paths if we wanted to survive. Yet, in running from one threat, another lurked behind. A lack of clarity wrapped around reality, stifling my breaths with uncertainty. "We're being hunted," I said, my voice low. "They're onto us." "We have to keep moving," Zara replied, her tone edged with urgency, the fire in her eyes battling against the looming dread that hung overhead. "I've got your back," I promised, and we plunged deeper into the unknown, where the remnants of light flickered and dreams mingled with desolation. As we traversed the districts, I couldn't shake the sensation that each corner turn drew us closer to an eventual confrontation. A flash of thought sparking through the air like the crack of static before a storm. Unraveling what was buried beneath the layers of deception would mean stepping into our darkest fears, demanding strength we weren't certain we possessed. Yet, tangible and compelling, our choices were carved in stone. Each shadow we traversed would reveal a piece of both the conflict and our own identities. Stripped bare beneath the layers of uncertainty, hurtled forth in waves. I looked to Zara when we arrived at the derelict freighter tucked away in the quiet of the docks, overrun with corrosion and rippled with the scars of long, forgotten battles. In a moment that felt eternal, I could feel the weight of the darkness around us, and the whispers of buried secrets clawing at the edges of my mind. We stepped into the flickering twilight of the arching darkness. Gears of fate clicked into place, leaving an indelible mark on our hearts as we began what would prove to be an unending journey on the cusp of revelation. The truth awaited, but beyond it dangled the shadow of doubt, whispering treachery and unforeseen passions that could dismantle everything we thought we knew. With every word exchanged, we treaded deeper toward the precipice of what lay beyond, unaware that some truths were destined to break the fabric of loyalty apart, blackened, scorched, and reformed anew. As the wild winds of uncertainty wove through us, I believed one thing unequivocally: we were no longer mere fragments of the past. We became forged through the heat of this newfound assimilation, and together we would embrace the darker truths ahead, or risk losing the light that resided in our very cores. The derelict freighter loomed before us, a rusting hulk amidst the shadows of the dock, standing as a testament to the innumerable stories that echoed through its creaking hull. Time felt suspended as I caught my breath, heart focused on the pulse of the unknown before us, while shadows flickered at the periphery of my vision. A constant reminder of the syndicate and coalition closing in on us. "We're doing this," Zara whispered, her breath steady as she surveyed the darkened entryway, determination etched across her features. I nodded in response, though anxiety gnawed at the edges of my thoughts. Let's hope Harper's intel is worth the risk. We stepped into the belly of the freighter, a haunting silence enveloping us, while a faint rustling stirred in the corners of my mind. Inside, scant remnants of technology clung desperately to their past glory long. Abandoned panels and tools lay scattered among the dust, relics of a life now forgotten. "It feels empty," I murmured, peering into the darkness that curled around every inch of this vessel, each creak of the metal sending vibrations through me. "Be alert." Zara raised her blaster, eyes scanning the lingering shadows. "We can't afford any mistakes." We moved deeper into the freighter's bowels, the air thick and stale with memories. Driven by an undercurrent of urgency, I reminded myself of our purpose, the lost files Harper had mentioned, the connections between the syndicate, the coalition, and maybe, just maybe, the whispers of truths buried in the annals of deception. Over there, I indicated to a door that still bore the scars of battles long past, its surface riddled with blaster marks. My breath caught as I turned the handle and pushed it open, revealing a dimly lit archive room cluttered with rows of flickering databanks. They hummed softly like sleeping beasts, their screens flickering images of the lives once contained in their memories. "This must be it," I said, stepping inside and swallowing the dust of data that danced lazily through the dim light. Zara took up a guard position at the entrance, the reliable buffer keeping me grounded as I stepped toward the nearest console. "We need to find something that connects the syndicate and the coalition, maybe a hidden file, a ledger, anything that reveals the web they've woven," I instructed, fingers flying across the faded screen, accompanied by the whir of gears that longed to be unleashed. Come on," I muttered, spurred into a whirlwind of focus. Moments turned into an eternity, each flicker of the digital interface fueling the fire of uncertainty. Finally, a glimpse of illumination leaped from the screen as coded messages splashed down the wall, a heavy weight descending with their implications. "Found something." My voice trembled with a mixture of fear and resolve as I scrolled through layers of encrypted files. "Here, syndicate ledger entries. They aren't just working together. They are leveraging alliances in pursuit of control over the trade routes. There's more here about an exchange involving something called the Starfall Protocol." I hesitated. "It's been provided to both factions through a third party." Zara took a step closer, her breath hitching in the air. "This is huge, Idris. If we can expose this, we might turn the tides against both of them." But the folds in my stomach twisted tighter still as a strange weight settled in. What if the third party is even more dangerous? This may just complicate our predicament. Complicated is an understatement. We're in the middle of a power play that could redefine how this sector operates. We can't pull back now, Zara countered, her words resonating through the tension in the archive. I nodded, squeezing my eyes closed to focus down the deluge of fear threatening to overtake me. Let me push through more files and see if I can find some sort of exit plan for us. Just as I turned back to the console, the door swung open behind us, and the darkness surged, effortlessly overlapped. A cluster of syndicate enforcers flooding into the room, their blasters drawn. I wish I could say we weren't expecting you. A familiar voice taunted from behind the lines, sharp and dripping with disdain. It was Lucian, a self-proclaimed runner of the syndicate, whose playful charms often masked his ruthless nature. But it seems fate has a twisted sense of humor. My blood ran cold, adrenaline igniting like wildfire within me. Zara, we need to move, I shouted frantically, darting away from the console as the first blaster fired a searing shot past us, ricocheting off the metal wall. The blast's acrid scent wafted through the air, mingled with our desperation. Zara dove to the side, gunfire erupting as she steadied her shots, focused amidst the chaos. A muffled curse escaped my lips as I scrambled for an alternate route, anything, to evade the grasp of syndicate enforcers tightening with each heartbeat. Where do we go? Zara called out, squeezing the trigger in calculated bursts to keep them at bay. My mind raced, scanning the clutter for a nearby exit. We'll check the galley, I shouted, catching her gaze in a fraction of a second, the understanding flaring brightly between our resolve. There is a back door that leads to the nearest airlock. We bolted through the narrow corridor behind us as the air thickened with tension. Every step was like shackles tightening with the weight of fear. Shots buzzed off our backs, the chaos surrounding us edging closer like a tempest eager to consume. Ahead loomed the chipped doorway to the galley, a small room filled with cans, crates, and uncertainty. But we had no choice. The only path lay before us. Go! I yelled, shoving through the door just as another shot grazed past my shoulder, burning the air. Heart pounding a war drum in my chest, I shoved crates aside, praying for space in this enclosure. Zara followed close, her presence like armor as we fought to gather our breath. The back door should be, I grunted, my eyes darting around for the mechanism. Rushing blindly, I tore through a row of metallic cabinets to find the latch. Teeth clenched in dread that overwhelmed my senses. Hurry! Zara shouted, firing at the entrance. A sharp explosion rattled our surroundings as the rail of crates imploded behind us. Idris. The command in her voice pushed adrenaline through my veins, and at last my fingers found the latch, flipping it with frantic desperation. A hiss marked our escape, revealing a narrow passage sealed by a safety lock. Now, I beckoned, darting through the opening as we leaped into the chaos of yet another chamber. As we ventured deeper in search of safety, the space between us and their gunfire felt palpable. Our breaths hinged on the edge of the unknown. But our flight was not without its consequences. An undeniable shift swept through the air, weaving into the fabric of our experience. Each step into the unknown placed us further into the network of relentless intrigue that plaid our very spirits. Down that corridor, Zara instructed, her voice rebounding as we chased the shifting shadows. We pressed onward while my heart battled the radiance of uncertainty, yet an undeniable spark ignited the urge to claim our fate. On my signal, she said suddenly, a fierce determination shimmering in her eyes. I nodded, bracing myself against the wall, yearning to find the elusive exit that buzzed beneath our breaths with the grit of our resolve. 3, 2, 1, go. We broke free, bolting down the hallway, igniting the fervor inside us for survival. But fate had not finished weaving its tapestry. As the moment we broke through the door ahead into a wider expanse, the horizon shifted again. Swarming figures, syndicate, and coalition enforcers alike, clashed into one another, roiling in the collision of power plays. A brutal dance sparked in the expanse before us. An exchange of blasters ignited chaos across fractured alliances and loyalties. For a moment, we stood paralyzed at the edge, limbs caught in the motion of extreme anxiety as the scene unfolded before us. "But what now?" I gasped, watching the violent eruption ripple swiftly with every blast exchanged. "We can't just walk through that, but maybe it creates our opportunity," Zara said, her eyes flaring with insight. "Follow me." She pulled me into the close chaos, weaving through the fray even as blaster shots rang out all around us, each stride a calculated risk against the tide. We matched each other's pace, heartbeats thrumming wildly together, bodies melded in the rhythm of fear and trust. We were no longer acting separately, but melded deeply in urgency. As the battle swirled around us, each moment pulled us closer toward revelation. Where most would see a tangled web of danger, we saw potential. Every shootout between foes intertwined was a chance to slip past another layer of calamity. To the left, Zara shouted, guiding us toward a storage bay that had been thrust partially ajar, a beacon for escape. I pushed through with every fiber of my being, adrenaline hanging at the expense of our lives, each pulse tingling with the weight of uncertainty. "We can land down there," Zara called, pointing toward an access hatch that led to the lower decks, hidden beneath the chaotic turmoil. We slipped into the dark cavity, breaths heavy as the door sealed behind us a promise to shield us from the onslaught of power grappling above. For now, a moment of reprieve. But the stillness had its price. A faint glow illuminated from the other side, and the shadows cast deeper silence around us. "What do you think we'll find here?" I murmured, the flicker of hope barely igniting the air. "If we're lucky, it has more answers," she replied, determination lacing her words, "or a way to turn this entire mess in our favor." As we exchanged resolute glances, the journey ahead felt profound, a merging of our struggles aligning with the yearning for something greater. Together, we would unravel this power play that sought to define our fates, unstoppable and united, driven by the intricacies demanding our survival. But in the air, a hidden, gleeful tension crackled around us, a silent promise that while the paths ahead were fraught with danger, each truth would reveal our capacity to claim the power beneath the weight of the stars. I stepped forward, with Zara alongside, readying ourselves to leap into the intricate heart of the truth that spun threads of fate, a path illuminated through the chaos. For we had only just scratched the surface of what lay ahead. Each twist and turn would bring us closer, not just to the brink of survival, but to the discovery of our entwined destiny amid the fragments of fractured worlds. Together, we would embrace the reforming shadows and stare down the very darkness as it rose to entwine us further, still refusing to succumb and collecting the truth, piece by piece, wielded through resolve, as the journey drew on into the unknown. Together, we would ignite the spark anew and alter the constellations that painted our worlds. And now, maybe just now, we would reclaim what lay hidden in plain sight. The hidden storage bay felt like a heartbeat in the dark, an echo of uncertainty that reverberated through the cold metal walls. I took a moment to catch my breath, every inhale laced with the heavy atmospheres we had narrowly escaped. Zara pressed her back against the door, her pulse sinking with the lingering echoes of chaos outside. "What now?" she asked, the current of urgency threading through her voice. I stepped deeper into the space, drawn to the soft blue glow that illuminated the far side of the bay. There, a row of battered consoles flickered to life with rejuvenated power, as though they recognized the presence of seekers. "We dig deeper," I replied, my heart pounding in rhythm with the anticipation of unearthing something pivotal. Harper mentioned hidden files linked to the Syndicate and the Coalition. Let's see what we can uncover. We navigated through the clutter, pushing aside piles of forgotten cargo and remnants of a life once bustling with activity. "If we find whatever's buried here," I murmured, glancing over my shoulder at Zara, "maybe we can expose their entire operation and turn the tides in our favor." There was a flicker of something, hope and fear crossing her features, a testament to the seriousness of our plight. Settling at one of the consoles, I activated the interface, fingers dancing over the screen as I attempted to access any data that lingered within. The glow pulsed softly, and streams of data flowed before me like wisps of dreams suspended in air, pulsing with potential. I steeled myself, feeling the knot of tension coil within, desperate for a breakthrough, for clarity that might tear through the fog clouding our path. As I scrolled through the screens, snippets of files and communications revealed themselves, half-formed thoughts tangled together like the strands of fate. "Here," I exclaimed, catching sight of something that sent a bolt of recognition sparking through my mind. It was a map, dotted with coordinates, marking locations where shipments had been exchanged discreetly between the factions over the past several months. "This is it." I turned the screen a fraction for Zara to get a look, while I dug deeper into the data. These entries suggest something bigger at play. Lines of shipments intersected with timestamps that wield in urgency. They're creating a network that spans the outer rim, both syndicate and coalition leveraging forces against each other, but to siphon power from the very lifeblood of commerce. I could feel Zara's pulse quicken beside me, awareness sparking in her eyes. If we expose this, we will fracture both factions at the core. They won't know who to trust anymore. My heart thudded at the brimming realization. The pieces assembling in front of us were a stepping stone that could reshape the balance of power. I continued scrolling through the files, desperate to make sure we had everything needed to form a plan. "And look at this," I continued, trailing a finger over the screen. "Every transaction leads back to a central player, someone orchestrating the chaos from behind the curtain." I paused, eyes narrowing as I deciphered a name hidden among the digital dust. "Malcolm Reyes," I murmured, the name tumbling from my lips laden with weight. "Reyes is the head of the Coalition's intelligence unit. Harper mentioned him. A ghost in the system, playing both sides." Zara clenched her fists by her side, her jaw tightening with awareness. "So that's why they have managed to maintain their stronghold. He's been pretending to broker deals while manipulating the flow of resources." "You're saying he's the one who has stitched these factions together?" "Exactly," I confirmed, heart racing as I pieced the puzzle together in the glare of the screens. "But if he's the puppet master, we need to draw attention to him before he can execute his next move. If we can disrupt their operations, it might force him into the open." Just as clarity took root, the crackling energy of the room rippled with an impending sense of dread. The door behind us rattled violently, boots thudding against metal. "We're out of time," I hissed, the adrenaline igniting in full force as I slammed my palm against the console, saving the files to a datapad. "Let's go." We darted toward the exit, my heart pounding wildly as I fumbled the datapad into my pocket. The noise grew heavier, the enforcers hunting us, drawing closer as I circled back toward the path we'd entered. Zara led the way, pulse quickening as we broke through into the lower decks we had glimpsed earlier. "We can't risk sticking around. We don't know how many are out there." Right, I followed her lead, adrenaline coursing through me as we moved deeper into the labyrinthine corridor. Shadows closing in on our heels while the sound of voices grew fainter, drowned out by the beating pulse of panic. We ran through the twisted passageways, weaving between crates and machinery that merged into one chaotic blur. The only constant was the echo of footsteps, our heartbeat steadily building in tandem with urgency. Finally, we reached a dimly lit hatch, an airlock window leading to the darkness beyond. "This way," Zara pulled it open, thrusting us into the frigid abyss of space beyond. I stumbled into the docking bay that housed the freighter we had altered. The tempest of fear had driven us harder than ever, but we would be safe in here, even for a moment. I faltered, allowing the weight of our escape to settle across my shoulders. "We made it," Zara's eyes pierced through the darkened edges. "Only if we can launch before they catch up." We throw the switch. The urgency surged back through my limbs, and we rushed onto the freighter's bridge, settling into the cockpit position while I hurried to initiate the launch sequence. As the ship's engines roared to life, I could feel the last pieces of calm collide with the wild uncertainty that had become our life's rhythm. hold on to something," I shouted, fastening my strap as I punched the navigation coordinates. The freighter burst from its docking cradle. The gears of fate, grinding together as the blast of thrust, rocketed us away from the chaotic power play surging below. And now we set course for the outer zones and disappear until we figure out our next move, I announced, my fingers dancing over the controls to plot our escape. If Malcolm Reyes is at the center of this, we need to track him down. He has to have safe houses, somewhere we can lay low and infiltrate. Zara nodded, a glimmer in her eyes. Then we keep these coordinates close. We can mobilize our next course of action once we dig deeper into those files. But even as we sailed through the vast emptiness of space, a gnawing sense of dread remained. The syndicate was far from finished, and Malcolm was no simple foe. We had plunged ourselves into a vortex of danger that stretched beyond the stars. "Who knows what he has waiting?" Zara murmured, almost as if sensing my thoughts. "From here on out, our every move must be calculated." I swallowed the lump lodged deep in my throat, excitement mingling with anxiety. We will cast our net wide, gather information until we can shape it into leverage. As we drew closer to the outer rim, my heart aligned with the charged air of possibilities threading through this wild chase. Our resolve pushed us into something vast and unyielding that could dismantle the very darkness lurking at the heart of our conflict. Setting our course into uncharted territories, we were determined to rise above, to reclaim our defiance. The raw essence of our struggle for survival wove threads that began to light a fire beneath our purpose. But behind those glimmers arose chaos and complexity. Shadows remained unfurling, dangerous riptides pulling at the edges. And still, I could feel the ever-looming question between us lingering unasked. At what cost would we uncover the truth, and would it ultimately turn the gears of fate against us? With hearts ablaze and uncertainty cascading around us, we braced to face the darkness lingering just out of reach, recognizing that every revelation would demand sacrifices. In this universe where trust had frayed and alliances shattered, we'd hold the pieces of our resolve close and surge forth toward whatever lay beyond the stars. United, we would carve our own path through treachery and chaos, merging our fates into a legacy of defiance that would not surrender beneath fire and darkness. Together, we had fallen through the maelstrom, and now we would rise to claim our truths among the void, ready to unveil the shadows lurking behind the guise of power. And so, we launched into the unknown, the wandering path illuminating the struggle ahead as we gazed into the infinite darkness, determined to thread our light against the vast tapestry of fate. Our future unfurled like the shimmering stars above, waiting to discover what latent potential lay in the embrace of the universe beyond. As the distant stars blurred into streaks of light, we soared through the in-sky void, the hum of the freighter's engines a steady reassurance amid uncertainty. I gripped the controls tightly, gazing into the cosmos beyond, where shadows danced with the double-edged promises of adventure and danger. The weight of our situation pooled heavily in the depths of my gut. Malcolm Reyes was a figure cloaked in treachery, a puppeteer whose strings manipulated the very fates of those caught in his snare. Yet, with every pulse of the ship, I felt our purpose deepen, igniting the kindling of resolve, unified in the quest for truth. Zara leaned over, eyes bright with determination that pierced the ominous atmosphere that threatened to engulf us. "We need to strategize. What's our next move?" she asked, her voice sharp and focused as she met my gaze with fierce confidence. "First, we digest the files from the archive," I replied, nodding toward the datapad tucked into my pocket. "I'll pull it up on the screen. We need to map out Ray's possible locations and connections. With luck, we can track his movements and intercept him." I pulled the datapad out and activated the holographic display, the beam flickering to life above us. Deity flooded across the projection, swirling with faded markings and tangled networks of routes connecting the syndicate and coalition. As I began to sift through the encrypted messages and stifled conversations, A chilling realization coursed through me. "Look at this," I said, motioning to the display. "There are unmarked coordinates linked to Ray's activities. Several of them lead to sectors in the Outer Rim, places notorious for smuggling and black market dealings." Zara leaned in, squinting at the overlapping data. "These patterns suggest he's moving stockpiles to avoid detection. If we can intercept one of these shipments, we might find him, or at the very least some of his associates. But there's a risk. If the Syndicate and Coalition are both tracking him, we might be walking right into a trap." "Or," I replied, feeling fire flicker within my veins, "we can set our trap. We use ourselves as bait, encouraging them to converge in one location. If we pick the time right, we could cripple Ray's operations and give ourselves a chance to confront him." The words tasted dangerous on my tongue, a shape of reckless abandon, but a path threaded with desperate hope. Zara's lips curled into a defiant smile. "That sounds like a plan I can get behind, but we need to be smart about this. We can't go in blind, and we need a way to gather intel without being seen." "We could reach out to some contacts on Threshold Station," I suggested, quickly tapping into another segment of the archive to find names and locations tied to the shipments. The old smuggler networks thrive in misinformation. They can help track Ray's movements while we lay low. Zara nodded, her face gleaming with excitement laced with caution. "Let's do it. You fly, I'll make the calls." With a shared understanding, I set the course for the nearest jump point, easing the ship through the galaxy's twilight folds while Zara activated the comms, reaching out to the swirling mess of contacts sprawled across the Outer Rim. Each jump felt like a gamble beyond belief, a roll of the cosmic dice that might lead us to fortune or disaster. As we approached a concealed cargo bay hidden within the shadows of the moonscape, the thrill of anticipation surged through me. "All right, Zara, we're set to drop behind the asteroid field. No one will spot us from this vantage point. Good. Let's hope our contact can pull through." Zara activated her device, scanning through frequencies until a familiar face flickered across the screen. An old associate named Quinn, a cunning trader known for threading through webs of deceit. "Zara, it's been a while." Quinn's expression held a blend of amusement and cautious wariness. "I heard you've been raising the stakes. What's the deal?" "We need information on Malcolm Ray's," Zara replied, her voice steady and commanding. "His movements, his goods, anything you can dig up will buy you a ticket out of whatever gang you're tied to now." "Spicy request," Quinn replied, leaning forward. "Ray's is a slippery one, but I can provide you leads, though my price has gone up since the last time we crossed paths. The Syndicate will have your head if they catch a whiff. You're not exactly low profile." "I'll pay up, just give us something solid," Zara insisted, tension simmering beneath her composure. "Fine, I'll connect you to a couple of lower-tier suppliers who've been moving Ray's goods. They will have eyes on him too, but expect complications. Each lead you take will draw more attention. If you mess this up, you will not just be dancing with him. You'll be leading your waltz straight into a grave. Understood?" With that, Quinn provided directions, coordinates positioned amidst the back alleys of the Outer Rim, slanted toward underbellies of danger where shadows thrived on rumors and secrets. As the conversation ended, a sense of gravity settled in the air between us. "Let's pick our lead and move," I said, tension warring with excitement. "This is our chance to corner Ray's and pull the string before things spiral." In the sterile hollows of the supply depot, whispers reverberated, sending free saws of uncertainty cascading through the air. Various factions held sway in the smoky clutches of hidden chaos, and I felt the pulse of survival hanging precariously. As I maneuvered the freighter to land discreetly behind an unmarked entry, the realization washed over me. Hiding in plain sight would be the ultimate tactic against the looming threat of our pursuers. Stepping onto the station, I felt the weight of fate pressed against my shoulder. My instincts flickered to life, guiding our movements through narrow passages adorned with flickering lights and hidden gaze. Zara rounded a corner ahead, glancing back at me, her expression reflective of the thrill that drummed beneath our breaths. "Watch the shadows," I murmured, scanning our surroundings. As we navigated through the intricate network, threading us deeper into the labyrinth of trade, each step unveiled layers of tension, cloaked in dealings, trades binding the delicate threads of desperation. Whispers flitted away as we sought out the supplier Quinn had instructed us to find in the depths of the depot. Alec, a voice echoed through the haze, intensity piercing through the layers of chance. There, standing at the threshold of a shadowy alcove, was the figure of a dusty trader who scrutinized us with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "I'm not one for playing games. What do you want?" "We're looking for information," I stated, stepping closer, allowing the seriousness of our mission to seep through the facade of leisure that often concealed a dangerous undercurrent. "We need to know where Malcolm Reyes is hiding." Alec narrowed his eyes, weighing his options. "Reyes, a dangerous name to speak. It'll cost you more than just credits. You'd be asking me to barter with blood, not currency." "We have what you need," Zara interjected, gesturing toward the datapad hidden beneath her coat, our bargaining chip. "We have intel that could turn the tides for your operations. Help us, and you'll see more profits than you've known." I watched as hope flickered in Alec's gaze, but doubt still clung, murmurs swirling like motes betrayed by the starlight reflections outside. He paused, the air growing thick between us. "You're brave, I'll give you that. The risk could mean everything. You must understand that involving Reyes is a last resort. But if you're reaching for answers, head to the Sunset Docks. There's a shipment loading up tonight." Word is Reyes plans to oversee it himself. The fire of ambition surged within me, and I cast a sidelong glance toward Zara. This is it. We can put our plan into action. With clear intentions entwining us in the fervor of our mission, we hastily departed, hearts rampaging for the shots of opportunity ahead. The plan was set in motion. It was now or never. As twilight seeped into the void, Alyssum, a ship reminiscent of shadows, cloaked in crimson, lay amid its dock. Swats of cargo piled in throes. The docks burst with frantic energy, a melding of figures moving like ghosts as they flocked to the frenzy of trade. Blaster fire erupted in bursts beneath the deafening noise that crackled through the air with unsettling unpredictability. "How do we get to him?" Zara whispered urgently, gauging the menacing crowd even as I scanned the ship's ramp, searching for the fleeting figure of a man veiled in secrets. "Patience," I cautioned, catching sight of a familiar silhouette that slipped past the throngs, a presence that made my heart quicken. There he is. Reyes emerged across the dock, radiating confidence that mingled with threads of arrogance. Sinister ties encased him as he surveyed the scene, orchestrating business like a maestro overseeing symphonies of chaos. "We'll need to split up," I murmured to Zara, urgency shaping my words. "I'll distract him, and you gather intel, anything that could lead us to more answers." "Are you out of your mind?" she exclaimed, eyes wide with incredulity. "I can't let you do this alone. If he sees you, it's risk versus reward," I insisted. "This may be our one shot to lay low, and I can keep him occupied long enough for you to maneuver." Zara's expression remained steely, a reflection of the calculations racing through her mind, struggling between the threat of separation and the undeniable connection pulling us into the fray. "If you're going to do this, you need to signal me, use the comm to let me know if you need my help, and keep your head down." With a reluctant nod, I melted into the crowd, heart pounding fiercely against my chest as I navigated the crisscrossing bodies, adrenaline pushing me deeper toward the storm brewing ahead. Navigating through shadows, I worked my way closer to Reyes, focusing on his presence as I drew within earshot, crouching behind a stack of crates. Zara slipped into position, her figure a specter lost in motion, the furrows in her brow betraying her concern even as determination etched her features. "Tonight's haul is critical," Reyes spoke, his voice inflected with a gleam that hinted at his underlying menace. "Double the profits if we make our timelines." "Malcolm," I managed to interject, stepping forward, voice steady as my heart raced within. The contours of his face shifted as he turned toward me with narrowed eyes. "We need to talk." His expression warped, mocking a swift shift into something darker, predatory. "And you are a curious traitor," I replied, suppressing the tremor in my voice, hoping to get in on the action. Reyes studied me, a smile stretching across his lips, but it held none of warmth, more a reflection of amusement veiling contempt. Lavish promises to those unworthy of the power that comes, how quaint. Just then, the flicker of movement caught my eye. Error rising behind the crates. "A move now," I shouted, adrenaline raking through me as I leapt toward Reyes. His hand darted for the blaster at his side, but in that heartbeat of the move, Zara collided, drawing Reyes' attention away as blaster shots erupted across the deck. Chaos exploded as Reyes' men swarmed us, a torrent of bodies racing to retaliate. "We need to get out," I shouted at Zara as we ducked behind a wall of cargo, shots reverberating against steel walls like thunder. "I know," Zara yelled back, heart pounding in rhythm with urgency as her finger moved over the trigger. "But what about your lead? We're so close. Focus on survival." I felt the surge of reality slip away, every moment warped by the pulse of tension that carved into the air. Turning the odds in our favor means escaping first. We burst through the chaos, racing away from the storm, eyeing paths to escape as enemy shots pinged around us. Just as we neared the edge of the dock, a resounding explosion echoed as the Syndicate arrived, destroying the exit point we'd almost grazed through. "Not good," I breathlessly said, scanning instincts for anything we could use. Zara's troubled gaze met mine, and the seconds stretched unbearably, nerves coiling tightly across our shared anxiety. "Let's head to the ship," she yelled, leaning against me as we forged our way across the debris, hoping to reach the safety of our vessel. The darkness kept unfurling its twisted plot, a mix of sense and illusion as we fought against the tide. The echoes of mayhem drowned out our breaths as we stumbled into the gaping maw of chaos, but I couldn't shake the sense that something monumental was unfolding. The threads of fate woven precariously amid our desperate fight for survival. Together we fought, weaving through clutter and shadows as blaster shots illuminated the chaos around us in stark flashes, like memories captured in alternating snapshots. Those echoes mixed with an undercurrent of defiance deep within, the pulse of survival igniting a reckoning we wouldn't shy away from. Armed with resolve, we pressed forth into the spiraling uncertainty as we raced toward our ship, our home on this wild journey through the fringes of the universe. But lingering behind lay the specters of truths yet to be revealed, shadowing our path with relentless whispers that begged to be confronted. "Once we've escaped, we can decode what we learned from Reyes," I shouted, battling through the chaos. "Let's meet at the freighter. We'll regroup and gather intel. If this is our last fight, we need to make it count." As we dove into the bay of our vessel, breathing labored in the aftermath of fear, I felt the weight of the universe settle upon my back. Every hope intertwined within our desperation, unyielding before the seams threatening to tear apart. With frantic speed, I initiated the pre-launch sequence as Zara secured the hatch, her breath stitching threads of determination into resolve. "Get ready," I yelled, heart racing with anticipation. "We'll take off as soon as we get clearance." Anguish still reverberated, and the darkness drowned in the shadows of fire as everything blurred together. A heartbeat that resonated through the air. The cockpit flickered alive, and the display shone with rebirth as fire ignited beneath the freighter, bolstering readiness to leap into the unknown. With one final surge, we blasted off, tearing into the cosmos and leaving chaos behind, a surge that propelled us deeper into newfound determination, unveiling new layers of defiance as we plunged into the wild expanse beyond. As stars saturated the endless void, the realization crystallized. We grappled not just with survival but with purpose. Our hearts full of thunder echoed against the backdrop of void and fear, each moment forging our alliance deeper. And thus our journey redefined itself, teaching us that while the darkness loomed omnipresent, The whispers of light radiated fiercely, urging us to press forward, armed with truths awaiting revelation. Together, we would unearth the fabric woven into our destinies, inviting confrontation, yearning for resolution, defying the shadows threatening to swallow us whole, and igniting the thrill of rebellion against the tide of fate. With each revelation uncovered, the path would widen before us, the struggles shifting into the echoes of a burgeoning legacy illuminated in the vastness that held our truths beneath the cold expanse of forgotten dreams. The battle for existence had only begun, woven intricately into the stars as we charted our paths, not only for survival, but with the desire to reclaim the power tethered within the fabric of the universe. We would transcend the shadows, rewriting the narratives of our lives as the stars came to sing a new song. The story of a rebellion, fueled by resilience, burning brighter with each heartbeat. The cold vacuum of space enveloped us like a shroud as we rocketed away from the chaos of the docks, the engines of our freighter roaring defiantly against the silence. I tightened my grip on the controls, my knuckles pale against the panel, feeling the surge of adrenaline ebbing as we put distance between ourselves and the fray that had almost consumed us. Each glance at the navigation display reminded me of the path we had chosen, routing us further into the unknown territories of the outer rim. Zara punched in the coordinates Alec had provided, an abandoned station largely forgotten, a sanctuary of shadows where whispers could roam free, unburdened by the weight of prying eyes. "It's impossible to believe we made it out of that chaos," she said, breathless and exhilarated as she leaned back in her seat, allowing herself a moment of relief. "Not yet," I replied, wishing to indulge in the moment but knowing danger still crept at our heels. "We're not safe until we figure out Ray's next move." She nodded, her expression shifting to one of steely focus. "Once we reach the station, we can lie low while we decode the intel we gathered. Harper's files, Ray's shipments, it's all linked. We just need the time to connect the dots." "Exactly," I said, breath hitching at the weight of anticipation still hanging thick in the air. "The sooner we decipher what he's up to, the closer we are to turning the tide against both the Syndicate and the Coalition. But first, we need to regain our strength." As we sailed through the star-speckled tapestry of space, time seemed to stretch, each tick of the clock amplifying the urgency of our situation. A cluster of rocks loomed closer on the screen, stray rubble from a distant, forgotten battle. I piloted through the debris, a faint flickering memory of all we had overcome settling within me. An eternity of silence, then, the greenery of the station shimmered into view like a mirage against the cosmic void. The station appeared cloaked in shadows, the exterior battered and marred but standing defiant against the abyss around it. "We're close," I said, a rush of exhilaration coursing through me, mixing my breaths with newfound determination. "Prepare for docking." As we glided toward the hangar bay, the station's hull hummed with the kind of energy one couldn't see but could feel. The reverberation of secrets buried within. The entrance creaked open, revealing a steel belly filled with wayward vessels, remnants of those who had come and gone, like us, shaped by circumstance, driven by fate. We landed with a soft thud, engines shutting off with a finality that sliced through the static air. "Gather anything we may need," I instructed, jumping up from my seat as thoughts buzzed in my mind. Photos, equipment, weapons. We needed to be equipped, prepared for whatever awaited us in the depths of that forgotten sanctuary. With a nod, Zara moved to gather supplies while I monitored the hangar's surveillance feeds. The screens flickered with static as I cycled through them, searching for signs of life among the stillness. "No activity," I reported, glancing back at her. "It seems deserted." "Let's hope it stays that way," she muttered, tossing a few ration bars and a couple of blasters into a duffel bag before joining me at the console. "What's our move? That's where the files come in." As I plugged in the datapad, the interface illuminated with data like galaxies swirling within a cosmic cauldron. I scrolled through the complex network of information saved within, trying to illuminate the details that could change our trajectory. It time to connect the dots. Zara hovered over my shoulder as I navigated through layers of encrypted files, bridging Ray's dealings with the Syndicate and Coalition. The flicker of memories surged within me, anxiety interwoven with the determination to bring truth to light, to unveil the intricate web spun between power brokers. The Starfall Protocol, Zara said, her brows furrowing as she read through the screen. What's this about? It's a set of trade regulations that Ray's is using as leverage, something he'll exploit to manipulate the Syndicate and Coalition's movements. He gathers the supplies, keeping his rivals weak, while he consolidates power under the guise of cooperation. How do we stop him? Zara asked, the tension thickening in the air. By understanding it, I replied, spinning the data to find the key coordinates connected to those regulations. We target the supply routes he'll use in that system. By intercepting those shipments, we can fracture his alliances and drive the Syndicate and Coalition against each other. Zara's eyes lit, excitement replacing the worry that had settled over her. And how do we find their weaknesses? Where will the shipments be? I leaned in, tracing the glowing lines across the display. If we can decode these files, we might be able to pinpoint when those shipments move and how Ray's orchestrates the timing. But we need time quiet to dig deeper. As seconds morphed into minutes, the shadows grew darker, draping the walls like a veiled curtain. Each scan yielded glimpses of information, and the truths began surfacing like suns igniting in the night. Yet, just as I began piecing together the final segments, the comm system crackled to life. Splintered, distorted voices clawing for attention. Reasonable offers for the connections. A rapid series of beeps encased the words, wrapping them in urgency that sent a wave of exhilaration through the hangar. What's that? Zara hissed, her attention snapping back toward the console. It's a long-range transmission, I said, fingers dancing over the controls, but the signal is weak, fading in and out. The static morphed once more, growing clearer against the chaos before we both froze at the words Malcolm Ray's. What? Did you hear that? Zara's gaze met mine, pulse rattling in her throat. He's here, I said, feeling the cold tendrils of fear creep up my spine. Miles high against the walls looming over us. In that moment, urgency cascaded through me, pure instinct lighting a fire inside. We can't stay here. If he's using encrypted channels, it means he knows someone is hunting him down. They'll be looking for us, the Syndicate, anyone. Then we need to move, Zara said briskly, relief morphing into action. We can find a secure room. We have to keep our lead. We both scrambled quickly through the shadows, maneuvering toward the back of the hangar, searching for safety while adrenaline-clad anxiety bubbled around us in chaotic waves. There, Zara quickly pointed toward a nondescript door at the far end, appearing hastily patched but seemingly untouched. We rushed to the door, pressing together in the small space as I worked the latch, hurrying to escape the growing reminders that danger murkily lurked within the station's belly. The door finally opened with a creak, revealing a dimly lit bunker nestled within the station's depths. This should hold, I breathed, glancing back to ensure the door sealed tight. Moments slowed as we inhaled, a chorus of emotions ranging from fear to exhilaration, blooming in the dwindling stillness that surrounded us. Zara immediately joined me, stepping toward another console embedded within the stone wall. Let's see if we can get the feed from the hangar. Double-check if they're out there, she suggested, and I nodded, my urge for information mingling with that of the time ticking against us. As she powered up the console, the screens flickered and hummed to life, revealing the hangar from various angles. The sound of distant voices floated through the air, uneven and filled with tension. There's activity in our vicinity, Zara muttered, her eyes scanning the feeds. Ray's men are mobilizing. I focused, combing through the displays of those gathered outside, heart racing, but then the icy sliver of fear sliced back through me as I spotted familiar faces among the Syndicate members. Everyone was circling, their motives masked beneath layers of rough exchanges and tension. This isn't good. The longer we're still, the worse it gets, she said, determination sparking within her. "We can't be hunted down, not now. I'll scour through the intel while you keep an eye on the feeds," I replied, turning back to the interface, rediscovering our tenuous connection to the deeper secrets waiting to emerge. The air thickened with anticipation, a convergence of danger, betrayal, and the promise of power cascading around us. With every fragment that unfolded before me, I could feel understanding solidify, like the stars being drawn into alignment. The walls of Ray's strategy were beginning to expose themselves, revealing the machinations that ensnared us both. So I dug deep, my fingers tracing the glowing screens, diving headfirst into the layers of uncertainty, both eager and terrified to unravel the truth resting just beneath the surface. "If only we could be free from their chains," I murmured, the echo of my voice laced with electricity, just long enough to solidify our fate. But as the minutes ticked on, a deep sense of urgency hollowed around us. The station reverberated with each passing moment, air thickening with suspense as the syndicate closed in, relentless in their pursuit, demanding the answers they believed we possessed. Suddenly, the screen flickered again, a figure emerging from the shadows along the hangar doorway. Reyes stepped forward into the light. "It's time to settle this," he said with a sardonic smile etched across his face. Time froze as he surveyed the chaos, our hearts begging to drown the flames in uncertainty. A split of realization gripped me, awareness solidifying into an unwavering truth. When shadows come hunting, light must forge a path against the tide. It was time we took back our narrative, reclaim back our fate intertwined, our stories inscribed among the stars. And we could certainly refuse to let another moment be quashed beneath a veil of darkness. We steeled our resolves as the scene intending to unfold beyond a veil thick with tension, echoed the reckoning had finally arrived, and we would not hide from it. "Ready," I said, clenching my fists together beside Zara. She met my gaze, fire dancing in her eyes. "We do this together or not at all." And thus our secrets unfolded, intertwined as fate propelled us into the chaotic night armed with knowledge, determined to confront the ghosts of our past and emerge to claim the truths that lay waiting, hidden amongst the fragments of light. Out there, the universe awaited. It pulsed with potential beyond unfathomable darkness laid ahead, ready for us to seize. The hangar pulsed with tension as Reyes cast a casual glance over the syndicate enforcers surrounding him, his demeanor smug and self-assured. There he stood, a master of puppets commanding the chaos unfolding. I could almost hear the whispers of inevitability weaving through the walls around us. Yet, in that moment, a reckoning surged within me, an urge to dismantle the bearings of darkness clinging to our fates. "But this ends here, Reyes," I called out, my voice clear and unwavering, infused with a defiance that ignited the air between us. "You won't manipulate anyone ever again." His expression shifted, curiosity dancing with mockery, as he leaned against the threshold of the hangar with open arms. "Is that so, Idris? You think you can claim power where you stand? You think standing tall means nothing in the grander schemes of the universe?" "I think standing for something matters," I retorted, my heart pounding in alignment with the pulse of resilience thrumming beneath my skin. "And I'll be damn sure that your reign of control is dismantled tonight." The weight of his gaze felt like 1,000 stones pressed against my chest, but I met it head on, knowing how far we had come, how much we had risked. Behind me, I could feel Zara shifting, ready for whatever tactics we would employ next. The flickering screens blinked, illuminating the deep shadows around us, mirroring the tension thickening like fog. "Enough of this foolishness." Rey's voice cut through the air like a blade, dismissive and cutting. "You have two options. Hand over the data that can lay bare the syndicate's secrets, or I will put your life into ruins with the mere flick of my wrist." "Your threats mean less than they once did," Zara chimed in, her voice fierce as she stepped beside me, drawing strength from our unified presence. Each heartbeat surged with the desire to reclaim what was ours, a partnership forged through chaos and triumphant in every woven thread. "Ah, the brave accomplice," Reyes smirked, his eyes glinting with amusement, though uncertainty flickered beneath the surface. Do you really think defiance can shield you from the inevitable? Is this your last-ditch effort to crawl towards significance? Zara smirked right back, determination sealing her resolve into the air around us. I'd rather be defiant than a coward hiding behind others' machinations. Listen closely, I interjected, determination lineating my words. You're orchestrating chaos between greater powers that will spiral beyond your control. You may hold the might of the Syndicate and the Coalition, but the truth will break your facade, and these lies you weave gauge only as long as we allow it. Ray's lips twisted into a grimace, the illusion of control slipping ever so slightly. He shifted his posture, surveying the charged atmosphere around us like a predator preparing to strike. Truths come at a cost, and the costs of your truth are about to unfold. In an instant, I felt his words lurch into the darkness around us, challenging our resolve. But instead of fear, a fierce fire pushed through, igniting our spirits. I barely had time to think before I made my move. I plunged forward, charging toward him as explosive shots echoed in our direction. The Syndicate enforcers snapped toward us, blasters drawn, sweeping across the distance. Zara, cover me, I yelled, adrenaline surging as chaos erupted. She wasted no time, returning fire as I cut through the row of crates nearby, seeking an angle of distraction. Enforcers shouted, confusion rippling through the ranks as blasts erupted against cargo. I was the storm across the battleground, charging toward Ray's. He's mine, I shouted, determination propelling me, each step an enforcer's whisper trailing behind me. Ray's barely flinched, a throaty laugh escaping his lips. Foolish boy. I expected more from you. And there, just as I reached the threshold of confrontation, everything pivoted. The confrontation melted into a cacophony of clashing desires and hopes unfurling. Realities colliding into shimmering fragments that tore at the seams of destiny. Ray's pivoted, raising his blaster and firing, but I barely dodged against the flurry of blaster fire, deflecting the hostility that surged, every volley ringing through the stillness around us like a desperate imperative. Suddenly, a crack of light filled the space as Zara emerged beside me, closing the distance to provide backup. Idris, get down, she shouted, taking a shot at the flanking enforcers, drawing their fire away from me. In that moment, I felt something deep within clawing its way to the surface, a gathering rush of purpose igniting my senses. I turned toward the display still aglow, its screens flickering with our very fates threaded into the web rays spun around our lives. Rays, I called out, redirecting my stance toward him, determination shifting into resolve. You think your schemes are safe, but every thread you weave only pulls tighter against your own grip. He narrowed his eyes, confusion mingling with anger as realization broke across his face. What are you plotting? Not plotting, I retorted, fingers deftly tapping the console. I'm about to expose you. With a swift motion, I activated the transmission, sending encrypted data from the archives hurtling across the network like a pulse racing into infinity, delivering the evidence to every faction eager for the truth. No, Ray's exploded, his eyes wide with a fierce blend of rage and disbelief as the truth launched into the void, unraveling the chaos of power that had grasped the galaxy for too long. Now the pieces fall into place, I said, voice steady and resolute as the transmissions wove through the ether. The Syndicate, the Coalition, they'll see you for what you truly are, a coward masquerading as a king. Kill them, Ray's shrieked, rallying the enforcers even as panic spread like wildfire. The moment shifted into a fray, chaos erupting through the air as gunfire flared. A cataclysmic storm unraveled beneath the vexation of truths unspooled. From every corner, shadows blossomed into life, and alliances began to fracture mercilessly. They are here, Zara shouted, pointing toward the hangar entrance as waves of Syndicate and Coalition forces spilled in, disarrayed but moving purposefully. We need to leap into the tempest and take advantage. I prepared to dash with her, feeling the electric charge surge through the air, freedom beckoning as the truth took back its space. With blaster fire ringing, I darted for rays, knowing that in the whirlwind of chaos, the last stand awaited. "Your reign of control dies here," I hissed, desperation lacing my words as I grasped the finality of the moment. "We are taking back what is ours." We charged forward, hearts racing, united, merged, harnessing the scattered remnants of hope clashing against the shadows. And together, amid the storm of chaos, we surged the fight against rays swirling forward, a relentless clash of wills echoing against the heavens. There would be blood, and there would be loss, but we stood shoulder to shoulder, defiant against the tides of despair that sought to unravel us. A flash of blasters lit the acrid heat as blurs of shadows collided, staying amidst the fray. Bodies collided, fate wrapped in each heartbeat, blurring the lines of where chaos would lead. "Erase, this may be your end," Zara shouted, sighed, stepping a volley of fire toward a group of enforcers, her resolve growing stronger like an engine revving with purpose. The truth shone brightly, luminescence driving against the distance, that we were built not just from lies, but from rebellion and desire, entwined by our fates, every fight sown deeper, hammering against the cosmos. As I lunged forward, every heartbeat forged our triumph. The victory we claimed was eternally woven into the fabric of existence. Together, we would dance through the shadows and emerge victorious against the looming darkness closing in. The fight escalated, a tempest swirling around us as we delved deeper into the chaos. A blazing storm of resolve and purpose carved against despair, each blow against rays symbolizing defiance, a manifestation of our intertwined destinies battling to reclaim the stars. It was in that moment of collision, of fury igniting against treachery, that I knew we would emerge, stronger than we ever imagined, carving our trail through the uncertainty that had shadowed us so long. The stars were waiting for heroes forged in the fires of chaos, and we would be theirs. Together, we surged into the storm, unfurling the layers cloaking our truth, a legacy intertwined with the very essence of existence. Onward into a future shimmering with potential, where light would forever prevail against the shadows of fate. As the chaos erupted anew midst the stars, we forged our path, our fates entwined into the very lustrous canvas of life. Each heartbeat redefined the measure of truth, a destiny alive, pushing against the waves, ready to rise. Our legend soared beyond, and together we reclaimed the light. The dark void before us transformed into realms uncharted, where we would continue to fight, unabashed. For the universe held tales yet to be spun, hidden just beyond our grasp, a promise of freedom waiting beneath the shimmering veil. And so we surged forth, together ready to unfurl the echoes of justice among the stars, our hearts burning bright across the endless canvas of the cosmos. A testament to resilience claiming our place amidst the galaxies. For in that moment we realized our destinies lay not in shadows but among the living light we'd chosen to illuminate. Our story, our fight, would echo across the fabric of existence, forever reminding the cosmos of the power still eternally alive within us.